civic leaders and all those assembled here today. How many of us have experienced a messianic moment? How would one recognize it, and what would one learn from it? On an unusually balmy summer's day in London in early June 1967, giving away my age now, a group of Jewish teenagers broke away from a playground soccer match to gather around a transistor radio that had been smuggled into that non-Jewish school. At that time, this technological marvel kept us in touch with miracles unfolding thousands of miles away, as our people fought for their very survival. On this particular fateful day, we heard directly from Israel in a crackly, barely audible broadcast of our liberation, Har HaBayit B'Yadeinu. The Temple Mount is in our hands. We shivered in the heat. Armed with Israeli Uzis and thousands of years of logging and fervent prayer, our bold lions of Judah, blooded but unbowed, bravely emerged from the heavy fighting in the surrounding hills of Jerusalem, and they marched resolutely through the valley of shattered communities and broken dreams, and ascended towards our history, towards our destiny. In their moment of deliverance, and ours, battle-hardened soldiers of God's army wept and kissed the cold stones of our holy wall with a fiery pride and passion carved out of centuries of relentless and indiscriminate persecution. The dream of generations have finally become an unlikely reality. But how did our people survive? And how did that dream survive? Through thousands of years of exile, while despotic empires collapsed all around us. Forged in the cauldron of hate, through Inquisition, expulsion, pogrom and Holocaust, our people emerged also blooded but unbowed. How? Surely faith played a central role, but through dark periods of our history, we were not permitted to practice our faith, even if it remained solidly ensconced in our hearts and souls. The more outward manifestation of our unique inner might and collective resilience is, I believe, attributable to community. Over the ages, those who have sought to destroy us have rent our communal tapestry asunder, only to discover that we have ultimately, meticulously, stitched the fabric of our society back together, again and again and again. I can state unequivocally and proudly that right here at YINR, in microcosm, the foundation of our strength and cohesion is that sense of community, all for one and one for all. Vicky and I arrived here about 17 years ago, refugees, a pair of foreigners, with no cars or kids. Apparently those were qualifications at the time. Hearts and homes were immediately open to us. We were granted the privilege of community service, and throughout good times and bad times, you have continually stood by us. So while confessing to the deception that I'm about to introduce into these proceedings this evening, this opportunity is really for us to honor each and every one of you and the institution known as Young Israel of New Rochelle. For under the sage guidance of Rabbi Finken Abbey, this community has continued to grow and flourish in terms of both its achievements and aspirations. The former is important, the latter critical. YINR is known far and wide as a community of great scholarship and of great generosity, of both spirit and resource. Sometimes this support is open, but more often it is latent and dignified and caring, all for one and one for all. Throughout these ensuing years, I've held a number of different positions, though for some reason I was never able to achieve the position that I coveted the most and thought I was most qualified for. Chairman of the Decorum Committee. While I'm washing dirty linen in public, I also seem to be unable to regain my lost place in the cantorial rotation for the High Holy Days. I have to admit that there were some questionable events surrounding Simchat Torah in years past, which fully warranted a rabbinic lifetime ban from leading the services. And the only reason I raise this issue at this time is that to this day people come up to me and say that they've never heard anything quite like my davening. I'm very moved by their tributes, though I suspect that a guest appearance in the wonderful Priestly Cop program is not on the cards either. After all, we're trying to bring people into the community. In all seriousness, I've been truly blessed in serving for over a decade in the capacity of Community Relations Officer. Those early years were sometimes tumultuous, but I was always guided by the words of our High Priest Aaron, love peace and pursue it. In more recent times, however, when a harsh reality was imposed upon us by a challenging economy, painful concessions had to be made, and that burden will remain with me for a long time to come. Within sight of the finish line, I stumbled at the last hurdle, but this race is not over yet, and we shall, by working with others, with diligence and dignity. It's funny because I was talking about dignity at the time. By working with others with diligence and dignity, we will emerge with a lot more than we could have anticipated a few short weeks ago. In overall terms, I try never to lose sight of a richly rewarding experience that enabled me to meet a wide array of very different people within the realm of multicultural diversity represented in our fine city of New Rochelle. The ultimate prize was to be able to interact with people of different backgrounds, faiths, cultures, and colour. I learned from them all. Opinions were not always uniform, but more often than not, they were ultimately reconcilable. And through open dialogue and tolerance that comes from simply knowing and understanding one another, we were able to find consensus. I invariably encountered respect throughout this exciting journey, and I pray that I've reciprocated accordingly with all of God's creations. For as the Kotzker Rebbe says, intolerance lies at the core of all evil. Not the tolerance that results from any threat or danger, but intolerance of another being who dares to exist. Intolerance without cause. It's so deep within us because every human being secretly desires the entire universe to himself. Our only way out is to learn compassion without cause, to care for each other simply because that other exists. Guided by that same Torah that has provided the entire civilized world with legal infrastructure and a moral compass, we recognize our obligation to reach out to other segments of our city society with an open hand on an ongoing basis to help our brothers and sisters in need. It is our responsibility as fellow citizens to sow the seeds of hope and dignity among all our neighbours and friends. We continue to establish meaningful and productive joint ventures with numerous civic agencies represented here tonight that will have a positive impact upon many people's lives. For within this magnificent structure, our hard-earned, wondrous new building beats a human heart of compassion, which will undoubtedly and unreservedly circulate loving kindness throughout society. As I have attempted to wind down my responsibilities in this privileged position, I have to say that it's been a distinct pleasure to work on internal and external communal affairs with a wide array of city, county and state agencies over the last decade. Your doors and minds are always open. I'm indebted to you for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate with us tonight in our celebration. I shall always be grateful for the opportunity I have had to serve. However, when the baton is handed over onto a younger, more dynamic and energetic generation, as exemplified by our fellow honorees, Ilana and Shami Minkov, with whom we are proud to share this platform, we will know that our future is in safe and secure hands. The future is indeed bright, but not without challenges. Since the last time we convened for this auspicious occasion, we've experienced numerous tests of faith, communally and individually. The agonizing list of those we earnestly pray for, that they should have a complete and speedy recovery, does not seem to contract. Moreover, it is hard to forget the shocking experience of finding ourselves lost in the deep abyss of despair as we lost many dear friends, many young friends. Despite their brave battles and the courage of those who ran, swam and biked. Yet adversity has inspired us as a community to come together with renewed vigor and impetus to provide succor and support wherever and whenever necessary to whomever finds themselves in need. Crisis unites and we respond. Going forward, no slope will prove too slippery, no precipice too treacherous for us to daringly traverse, equipped with a newfound, even stronger sense of unity as we ascend as one to the summit of our mountain of ideals. We will overcome the challenges and be stronger for it, while helping each other and advocating for each other. As the Persian proverb says, to God alone belongs perfection. Energy invested in discord is entirely unproductive, can be instead directed towards open and constructive dialogue and ultimately to consensus. We must be galvanized by commonality while being considerate of differences. Leadership will consistently strive for that consensus. As Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, said, to lead the people, walk behind them. Each and every one of us is called upon to be engaged in this fresh brand of activism, whatever capacity and to whatever extent we can participate, utilizing a broad array of invaluable resources and talents. The new era of enhanced volunteerism will undoubtedly require dedication, commitment and sacrifice. But as Mark Twain said, only in the dictionary does success come before work. At a time when we ask ourselves, what will be our legacy? May our children and grandchildren be unencumbered by fear and uncertainty, and always be able to look back and say that our generation was one of great vision and great industry. Another Chinese proverb says, one generation plants the trees, another gets the shade. On a more personal note, as I mentioned earlier, we're very appreciative of this opportunity to salute each and every one of you who have stood by us in good times and bad. Individually and collectively, you are our inspiration. Life without you would be unimaginable and intolerable. We are proud to be part of the YINR family. Talking about family and intolerable, yes, I have been on occasions, albeit on very few occasions. But having said that, I'm extremely grateful for the support I receive at home. I'm still haunted by the words of dear Jonathan Francesca, our two miracles, who upon my regular exit to another meeting or event would justifiably complain about my absence from the house and from their lives. Often they would lie awake at night, pensively awaiting my return. When finally I would come back, they would ask, did you accomplish anything? I shall give you the same answer now as I gave you then. I hope so. Love you guys. I once had the privilege of meeting my countrywoman, the Iron Lady, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She would often be heard saying, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And needless to say, she never even visited our home. The primary inspiration in my life is my beloved Queen Victoria. She is truly deserving of honour. Happy birthday, by the way, it's quite a party. Vicky has been involved in every aspect of communal life and at every stage of the life cycle events that we come together for. She facilitated the revival of the pre-Holocaust custom of delivering a freshly baked Gesundheit well-being cake to the parents of every newborn, the recipe for which was discovered amidst the ashes of the Theresienstadt concentration camp at the conclusion of the war. At the other extreme of the spectrum of life, armed with her unique brand of dignity, compassion, and sensitivity, she has ventured forth amidst the anguish and suffering of those who have lost near and dear ones to set up a shiver house and provide solace and comfort wherever possible. All this in addition to her culinary expertise and her premier homekeeping abilities. As you know, a happy life is a happy wife. So I shall embarrass her no further, at least for today. I thank all the civic dignitaries here today, State Assemblywoman Amy Paulin and Mayor Bramson, and Jim Maizano, County Legislator. Your active participation in this program makes this event all the more memorable. Thank you for being there for me and for us these last few weeks. Thank you. I'd like to pay tribute to the 4 presidents and their boards I've had the privilege of working for and with. Myron Eagle. Myron formulated the community relations role. I vaguely remember many liquid meetings with Myron. David Blumenthal. I had many meetings with David, but regrettably, none of them were liquid. Stan Raskus. Given his new marital status, I should prefer not to comment. And Zev Skolnick, with whom I'm about to have a very liquid meeting. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the ladies of Women's League, who personify the very essence of Chesed. Given programming constraints, and I'm way beyond my limit already, rather than be able to thank you all individually, I'd just like to thank all of those who have busied themselves with this beautiful event, including all on the dinner, raffle and journal committees, those involved in decor, photography, videography, technical service, our office staff, custodians, and those who came out of retirement, especially for tonight. Last but by no means least, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Rabbi Fink and Abby. Where would we be without you? Nowhere, to be sure. We thank Hashem for bringing us to this great day and for bringing us to this great community. Thank you to each and every one of you for bestowing upon us this great honor. You fill our lives with love and joy, and no words can really express our deep gratitude to you all. It took me a while from that languid summer's day in 1967 to fully appreciate that which has given our unique people the will to survive and the strength to flourish. Community, all for one and one for all. Andy, be safe, and may we all meet again soon, next year, in our eternal and indivisible capital, Jerusalem. Thank you.